Welcome everyone to another episode of Southern Dirt Motorsports. I'm Randall Davis and I have Gary Lawrence here with me to help host this. We have Mike Luna that's going to help us host also, and we got a really special guest. A lot of y'all have heard about, actually seen him. We got Mr. Randy Weaver here with us today. Randy is a racer's racer if there's ever been one. And Randy, I got to just start out by telling you, proud to have you here. And I've got to know how in the world you got started in racing to start with after all I've heard about you.
Well, it goes way back, but my dad he campaigned the first Camaro for ASA up in Indiana. And we lived up there. Family's from Jamestown, Tennessee, but he was up there a lot working. And I was actually born in Indiana. So
what part of Indiana?
Muncie, yeah, Ball Memorial.
Yeah. I would have been born there if my mother hadn't got sick and come home. That's where my dad worked at Ball Brothers.
Yeah, the dad worked up there at Indiana Wire, and so I was hatched up there, and then grew up around watching Mark Martin, Mike Eddy, Dick Trickle, and all them. And Dad actually built his own cars and went and raced. And he only ran a few times, and my mom said he finally figured out he could not drive, so he hired some guys and had some real good racers. And so I grew up around it my whole life. I never even had a chance. So then later in life, in high school, my best friend was coming back from working one day and seen an old abandoned gas station. The guy was there in Birdstown, Tennessee, and kind of worked the deal out. If we could clean his lot up for him, he'd give us a 73 Plymouth Satellite, and we got that thing drug home and done the best we could, and took it straight to Crossville to run an enduro race, and started 52nd and run second that night, and I was hooked from there on.
Well, I will say this, that ASA racing was a tough league to race in. There were some of the real prominent people that just became to be superstars that raced in that. So that was a tough crowd to be in.
Yeah, it was, and that's one reason a lot of people that don't know much about the racing up there always said, well, why do you say your dad campaigned the first Camaro? Because if anybody knew American Speed Association, they was Camaros for years.
Right.
That's all they had, and so that's what I grew up with. And my dad, like I said, built his own cars and had his own ideas, and sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. But I know one couple of times we went to Bearfield in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and they had a bounty on his car, and they'd won 18 in a row or something. And so I knew if I had to do it in my house, or whatever you done, you had to do it the best you could. Didn't mean you always had to win, but you had to put all the effort. So he kind of raised me that way, and said it's okay to be a little different, but make sure you get success out of whatever you try, and that's just kind of the way we ended up.
Well, who was some of the guys that drove for him?
Probably one of my favorites was Don Andrews. He passed away about 8-9 years ago, and had a big salvage yard up in Indiana, so that's where we got all of our parts. Back in the day, we could get on a computer and order and drop ship them. So we learned how to work on stuff real early, but he had several different guys that, of course, I was running around there when I was a snotty-nosed kid, and probably in the way more than I was helping, but I thought I was helping. But he raced for years and years, and then we moved back to Jamestown, and that's where all his family, my mom's family, is from, and that's where I graduated high school. One day I loved playing basketball and was a decent basketball player, and one day I said, you know what, I'm ready to race, and Dad just kind of looked at me and went on, and I quit basketball that day, first time ever that I've ever quit anything, and went and got that car, and the rest of it's been a long, hard road, but it worked out. I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Once that racing bug gets a hold of you, nothing else, no other sport really matters then.
Yeah, and I see that now when we talk about it, me and some of my friends that's about my age, when even me and Mike, when we was trying to race and get going, like, that's all I thought of. I mean, you talk about eat, breathe, live it, and nowadays, even on the national level, I see kids come in and I'm proud that they've got good equipment. I'm proud their family's successful, but it ain't half them guys want it like we do, what we did. And if they had to, there'd be a whole lot less racers, because I'm telling you, it's about driving you crazy and work all night and barely get to work the next day, and you don't see that no more.
We work to race.
We have to. That's all we want to do, and I'm glad. And I know my dad more than likely done that to keep me out of a lot of trouble, and it did. But it also just put something in me that now my son races, and and I've told him several times before he got started, I'm like, well, if I can help you do anything else, we'll do it. And he's like, that's all I know. It's what I want to do, and so now you just have to support him and hope it works out.
He'll be good at it.
Yeah, he's all right. He's learning and getting experience. He's already won a bunch of races. He outrun me a couple of years ago in a 10,000 win race, and I told somebody that's the first time I ever fist pumped running second in a race. I was so proud of him. So now he's out doing his own thing, and just like my kid's doing, and I mean, you just gotta hope for the best for him.
Well, after the enduro racing, how did you evolve? Go through the steps with us, how your racing career evolved to where it is today.
Well, so after the enduro race, we come back to Crossville. I begged my dad to bring me, and I used the lame excuse. It'll give me a chance to get used to the flags and start in the race. And I just wanted to race. I didn't care. And of course, we couldn't keep up because of the differences between what was then the pool boy class and enduro. But anyway, after that, we went to a modified street car that we drug out of the weeds over in Wartburg, and got it ready. And I'll never forget, my dad's one of his best friends, Jerry Whitey, that built motors over in Jamestown. He said, now you can have either the motor that's got the cracked heads on it, and it'll probably run warm, or the one that's got a cracked oil valley, and you'll have to change oil after every race. And I'm like, I don't care, whichever one will run the best, So again, and I know everybody did, but I'm telling you, we didn't have anything to really race for. But we loved it, and we made it work, and it turned out good. So after Modified Street, I got a chance to drive for Steve Smith out of Spring City, and me and my dad had went to Dave Dayton auction in Indiana and bought a car that we had to drive all night to try to get back and beat the check that we wrote, because it wasn't any good. And got to the bank and borrowed the money to cover that, and there we sat with a really nice roller car, and didn't have a motor, didn't have nothing. So Steve Smith was liked us enough to take a chance on me, and he bought the car and put the motor in it. And in that year, I won 18 out of 19 races at one track and won 4 or 5 in another, and it kind of took off from there. So he got me my first late model. I think my third race in the late model we won at Crossville with, it was a dash for cash deal they done for all the winners that year. And it was me and Dave Bildry and Rex Ritchie and Dale McDowell, I think, run third. I mean, that's what I used to tell people. When we grew up racing, and Michael will speak for this, that it was every East Tennessee was the hardest group of people. It had the best racers, and it was hard then, but it made us better later. And so anyway, I done that a little bit and went on, and then I got where I ran some asphalt in Florida and won the Red Eye 100 at New Smyrna. Actually got down, a lot of people don't know this, I got down to the final 12 people to have a shot of driving the Pepsi 24 car for Jeff Gordon's group. And Michael Landis, which is still one of the managers over there, came to Crossville, sat down. We didn't know nothing. We had hired a group out of Atlanta to build us a portfolio. During that time, he went to the dirt race with us that weekend, and I left up on both races. So they was all excited, but I just had built my house. My boy was just born. He was 3 months old. And they said, all right, you need to throw everything down. You need to move to North Carolina. And I said, so I've got the job. And they're like, because usually they're going to let you run 3 to 5 races. Then depends on what goes on, if you get the job or not. And they said, no, you're just in the final 12. We got to go to Hickory and test, and then we're going to go to Concord and test. And I'm like, yeah, but what's that mean? I mean, I had to make money. You know, I was working at the Dodge place. I was a service writer, and I was trying to make everything line up, and I wanted to race. And that ate at me, and finally I had to just call and tell them that I had to bow out, you know.
That had to be a hard call.
It was very hard. My dad didn't talk to me for 3 months. I mean, he was tore up because, and I see it, but, you know, my mom and dad gave up everything so I could go race. I mean, everything. It's amazing looking back. And, you know, and I realized it a little bit then, but now I'm older and I see what they really had to give up because nobody had anything, you know, and they worked very hard to give me that chance, and I had to turn it down. But, you know, later in life, I mean, I see that everything I've done in racing, I'm fortunate enough, I've won 391 races. And everything I've done in racing or got, I owe it to everybody else. I mean, every single person from Donald Gunner or Dry Waller that I just seen this week, he's still like my second dad, and he gave up everything that he made so we could go race. That was back in the Baxter days when he was racing. He owned all that. I didn't own nothing, you know. And so everything I got is because somebody took a chance on me, and I still, every one of those people that still live, and I always stay in contact with them and help them. And I looked up in, I think that was 13, and met up with Chip Stone, a doctor out of Florida, and I actually worked on, excuse me, his car. But he had another driver in a different class, and then he said, "Why don't we go super late model racing?" And he said, "I want one of the top 5 teams in the country." And I'm like, wow, you know, he bought me whatever he wanted, hired whoever I needed, and luckily I didn't make him regret that. They voted us number 1 in 2015 in the country, and I won 9 or 10 races in a row right after my dad passed. I just wanted to prove a point, and I finally proved it, and then I realized that that clock never quits ticking, so we started putting different people in the cars, and that's how I ended up with putting Randall in there, and kind of saved his career because he was in a low spot there, and kind of helped other people, and that's where I'm at now. Like, I know we was laughing earlier because I drove a Crown Vic car at Crossville, but just like I told one of the guys that was kind of upset that I was driving in that class, I started in the very bottom, and that's how I'm going to leave. I went all the way to the top in dirt, and I'm going to go back out that way and have fun and never forget where I come from. That's why at Crossville I'll sponsor that class some. I put some money in it, and I don't know any of them other racers that do that, but it means something to me. That's where I started. That's where me and my dad spent a lot of our relationship, and that's just the way I feel.
That's what makes you the man that you are, Randy. And I'll recap a little bit here too. I think the thing that makes you a better racer is if you do have to start with jump. If you can make jump work when you really get some good stuff to work with, then you are better. You're surprised at what you can do with yourself when you get some good equipment after having to make jump work. And a lot of us did have to do that. There wasn't anything. We had to make our own stuff and make it work.
And I had a lot of other good people too, just like Josh Gunner. He still fools the cars. He was my crew chief for years. And all down the line, like I said, I owe it to everybody, but what we done, we learned together. And we didn't have nothing to start with, but when we finally got that break and had somebody like Chip Stone that just said, "Here, go get it," and then we was ahead of the game because we understood how stuff worked without just getting on the computer and clicking a button. We would build our own spindles. We would do our own stuff. We actually had our own in-house shock program. We'd order shocks, just the pieces, and then we build them all and dyno them and do our own thing. And that all started by having to understand it early on with what you had. And because some of these people, I'm telling you, I hear talk in the pits all the time, like they want to, and you can tell the conversation is over what they've heard. They're repeating information, and half the people couldn't even take a shot.
It's amusing to listen to somebody.
Well, when you know the real story, but half of them couldn't even break a shock down and change the oil in it. They want to talk about shaft speed and this and that, and I just kind of I usually, I mean, every once in a while, I'll get fired up, but it takes a lot to get me that way, but most of the time, I just kind of lay back, and my dad always told me 2 things in racing. You don't always have to have new to have the cleanest, neatest. And he said, if you don't care enough about it to keep it that way, you need to find something else. And you don't have to tell nobody how good you are. Let your racing talk for itself.
It will.
And that's what I always try to do. Hopefully I've done that.
I know you have done that. And some guys that might object to you racing in the Crown Big class, they may not realize it now, but it'll be the best thing that ever happened to them, because you're going to only be as good as your competition. Now, I've seen guys stay at home and they'd get a certain level, and that's as far as they'd go, because that's where the level was at. If you get out there with a higher level, you're going to eventually get that good and try to get better, and most of the time you will. So you're a blessing for those guys, whether they know it or not.
Well, a couple of things on that. I mean, I'm a level-headed person, I think, down to earth. I do remember where I come from, and I'm still there in my mind. And I won the first night in the Crown Vic, and had the most fun I've probably had in 10 years of racing. And the last time I run third. I mean, it's okay. I don't have anything to prove. I'm there just to have fun and put a car in the field so they'll keep the car count up. And then, every year when I go up and do the Eldora stuff for Flow, me and Tony Stewart always get over to the side one night and just catch up racer to racer. And he's been racing Crown Bigs. And I guarantee you not one person griped about that up there. And he's not won one yet, but he's raced and got second, and he's same way. He's had fun doing that. And to me, I understand if I went out there and just say won 4 or 5 in a row, then I get it. I mean, I don't need to do that. But when I'm out there just having fun and racing and not hit nobody, not do nothing, I'm just there. And I don't announce I'm coming. I don't announce when I'm leaving. I didn't even want to go to Victory Lane that other time, and the car owner wanted to, and I understand that. He worked hard on it. So I try to keep it as level-headed as I can, but some people won't let you. So I probably wasn't even going to race that class anymore, but after they said that to me, I'm going to try to race as many as I can. So
I would be disappointed if you didn't.
So we'll try to see if we can make a little.
And there are people that's going to come and see you race too. It don't matter what class you're in. As this one of our guests said, they come and watch Randy Weaver race a wheelbarrow. And I think that brings, like, when you're that caliber of guy, that brings much to the sport. Everybody needs a guy like Randy.
Well, I don't know. I'd say a lot of people would argue that, but I just try to do what my dad raised me. He said at the end of the day, you only have your name, and you uphold that with all you got, and you're going to make a ton of mistakes, but at the end of the day, he said, everybody don't like vanilla, but every time they taste it, it's the exact same. So don't change because of something else.
Right.
You're just either their guy or you ain't, but you be honest and race clean. And I feel like I've done that most of my career. And again, a lot of good relationships, a lot of good people, just like the Lunas. I remember when BK used to race, I wasn't even in his class then, and I'd watch these guys. I mean, when we first started racing, and it was that 9-to-1 class that Robbie was talking about earlier, when they rode in that sportsman class, that was the outlaw class. I mean, it was big motors, big wings. I mean, they'd get it on, and then we'd pull out there in what was supposed to be the top class late models, and it was like watching crate cars, and I was like, wow, that's something. I never got to race in that class, but I got to do a lot of things that I always just dreamed about, and got to win some races that I only dreamed about going to, and again, owe it all to somebody else. But like I said, I know people's done more than me in racing, but from where I come from, I wouldn't change a thing.
They haven't done a lot more than Randy Weaver.
No, I'm proud of you, Randy, because really you've always been one of us, and I'm so proud of where you got to. I really am. I mean, even getting back to your dad. You and your dad raced just like me and my dad raced. And I lost mine in 10, and I'm going to go to Crossville. He had a certain spot he set in the stands. I still look for my dad, even now. And Randy and his daddy was that close too. I mean, it's handed down almost.
I agree, and I remember where we used to park, and I remember where we said, you know, we talk about certain things, and I never forget that. Even today, when I'm in the shop, I buy a lot of race teams and flip them and put bodies on, do whatever, and get them ready to sell, work on some other stuff for people, and I'll do something wrong, and I'm like, I know that, I wasn't supposed to do it like that, so it's always going to be there. I'm just glad we're close enough that it mattered.
Well, guys, I hate for this episode to come to an end, but this is used up our time. And Randy, thank you so much for sharing this much of your story with you. I'd like to do another episode with you because there's lots more stories to tell. But for this one, thank you for watching. And again, folks, if you have any parties, any kind of anniversary, wedding, whatever, consider Northfield Vineyard. You'd be surprised how much you can do with so little and make it so memorable event. So before you have an event, give them a call, let them see what they can do for you. With that, with Gary Lawrence, Mike Wheeler, Randy Weaver, and myself, Randall Davis, thank you for watching.